I want to share with you a plan that can be followed by dedicating just a little time every day, 5 days a week, and that brings results proportional to the effort invested. Take a moment to think about your accomplishments so far. Everything you have achieved, whether at work, in family relationships, or other areas of life, your worldview, all of it has come from using only a partial amount of your mental capacities. Now, consider the estimate made by experts. It's likely that you are utilizing less than 10% of your mental capacities, or even less. Dr. Robert Otto, a psychologist, educator, and president of the National Center for the Exploration of Human Potential, reminds us that many well-known scientists, such as Bruno, Merritt, Murphy, English, and Carl Rogers, have written about the hypothesis that humans are only using a very small fraction of their capability. Margaret Mitchell estimated it to be about 6%, while Abet Othen suggested his estimate to be 5% or less. Neurological research conducted at the OCL Brain Research Institute indicates enormous latent abilities in all of us, suggesting incredible possibilities. The creative capacity of the human brain may, for all practical purposes, be something that scholars have pointed out as infinite. Using the analogy of a computer, we can say that the human being is a vast repository of data, but we have not yet learned to program our minds to use this data in problem solving. Another great Soviet scholar and writer stated that man, under average living conditions, utilizes only a small part of his cognitive capacity. He argued that if we could force our brain to work at half its capacity, we would be able, without difficulty, to learn 40 languages, memorize a large Soviet encyclopedia, and complete the courses of dozens of colleges. This statement is hardly an exaggeration. It is a generally accepted view of human mental potential. Now, how can we tap into this enormous potential? Well, it's a big and complex problem, with many ramifications. But, as Robert Otto highlights, we can observe that people who live close to that capacity, who remain potentially active, have a pleasant sense of well-being and considerable energy. They see themselves as leaders of creative and purposeful lives. If everything you have is the result of using only 5% of your mind, imagine for a moment what that would mean for you and your family if you could increase that percentage. In general, none of us have any idea of the real capabilities of our minds, but believe me when I say that your mind can be compared to an unexplored gold mine. And it doesn't matter if you're 17 or 70 years old. Think of it this way, your gold lies in the future, and your challenge is to bridge the gap between where you are now and where you want to be. So, that's the problem to be solved. Robert Schork, who became chairman of the psychology department at Northwest University, observed that successful people are not those who don't have problems, they are simply those who have learned to solve their problems. So, what does it mean to be successful? It means achieving the things we desire in life by solving the problems that arise between the present moment and the point we want to reach. No one is exempt from problems, it's part of life. But let me show you how much time and energy we waste on the wrong problems. Here's a reliable estimate of people's worries. 40% of them are about things that will never happen, 30% are unnecessary worries about past things that cannot be changed, 12% are unnecessary worries about our health, 10% are miscellaneous small worries, and only 8% are legitimate concerns. In summary, 92% of people's worries are absolutely unnecessary, wasting valuable time, causing stress, and even mental exhaustion. And about legitimate worries, there are two types: problems we can solve and problems beyond our ability to solve on our own. However, most of our real problems usually fall into the first group, those we can solve if we learn how. Now, I'll assume you have chosen your goal. Your challenge is to figure out how to achieve it. Whether it's an emotion, a higher income, a beautiful home, it doesn't matter what your goal is, as long as you have it and are aware of it. You will become and achieve what you think. That, of course, if you commit to it, you will achieve your goal. Now, here's the crux, it's all a matter of mind. No one knows for sure. Perhaps the best way to describe them is to quote Pulitzer Prize-winning playwright Tree, in that play The Secret of Freedom. A character says, "The only thing that sets man apart is his mind, anything else you can find in an animal or a horse." That's undoubtedly true. The human mind is what distinguishes us from other creatures on Earth. Anything we achieve in the future will surely come to us as a result of how much we use our minds. And yet, it's the last place people usually turn to for help. Reflecting a moment on the human mind, consider what we have already accomplished. Human knowledge has advanced more in the last 50 years than in all of the 10,000 years of human civilization. It's estimated that of all the scientists who have ever lived, 90% are alive today. We have entered into an area of ideas and human progress that has surpassed even the most optimistic predictions of 10 years ago. And each new idea generates more ideas, so now we are in an era of compounded progress in all imaginable areas. Dr. Rollo Shapley of Harvard stated that we are entering a completely new era, which he called the era of psychological seeding, the era of the mind. And you possess a free and clear mind. Now, let's get to the facts. A working person, in general, supposedly has a tremendous amount of free time. In fact, if you calculate the total hours in a year and subtract the sleeping hours, assuming the person sleeps 8 hours every night, you will notice that there are almost 6,000 waking hours, of which less than 2,000 hours are spent working. This means there are 4,000 hours per year when they are not working or sleeping. These hours can be called free hours, during which we can do a lot, as our minds are free. Now, to see astonishing results in your life, I suggest you set aside just 1 hour a day, 5 days a week, to dedicate exclusively to this. Choose a time of day that you can consistently maintain, and during that hour, every day, take a blank sheet of paper. At the top of the page, write your main objective in a current, clear, and objective way, because our future depends on how we handle our present. Then, jot down as many ideas as you can to improve what you are doing now. Try to think of 20 possible ways to improve the activity you do daily. You may not always come up with 20 ideas, but at least one of them will be good. Remember 2 important points. First, this is not particularly easy. Second, most of your ideas will not be good. And when I say it's not easy, I mean it's like starting a new habit. At first, you may feel a little reluctant to break out of your old routine. But as you reflect on your work and ways to improve it, write down all the ideas that come up, no matter how absurd they may seem. Let me tell you what will happen. Some of your ideas will be good, and it will be worth testing them. The most important thing this extra hour does is to deeply incorporate your goal into your subconscious mind. Thus, the whole vital gear begins to work, and with 20 ideas per day, you'll have a total of 100 per week, not counting the weekends. 1 hour a day, 5 days a week, totaling 260 hours per year, and you still have 3,740 hours of free leisure time. This means you are focusing on your goal and on ways to increase your performance, improving your goal. With just a week and a half of 40-hour weeks focused on thinking and planning, can you realize how easy this is? It will put you above the so-called competition and still leave 15 hours a day to do whatever you want. If everything you do now is the result of using only 5 to 10% of your mental abilities, imagine what your life will be like if you can increase that number to 20% or more. Successful people are not those who don't have problems, they are those who have learned to solve their problems. So, don't waste time and energy worrying about unnecessary things. 40% of them will never happen, 30% have already happened and cannot be changed, 12% are unnecessary worries about our health, 10% are miscellaneous small worries, and only 8% are real concerns. Try to separate the real from the necessary and solve those that are within your ability to solve. Finally, remember that the only thing in the world that can lead you to your goals in life is your mind when used effectively and following the good ideas it provides you. We must realize that we have within us a reservoir of great ability. Even a genius can be surpassed if we dig deeply enough. Always aim for the best. That's the affirmative miracle of your mind.